know.
Everything that comes in is gonna
How you doing, man? Good. Good.
All right. Friday morning, Saturday, late Friday night, Saturday morning. What? I didn't. I don't have Victor Sanchez. And it wasn't Victor Galvan either. Because I only got you as Vic on my phone. Like, the one that he gave me.
It's not, it's just like group message you send everybody.
I even left it on there to make sure that I texted you. That's funny. That's how y'all did. Nothing Saturday, or just like Saturday morning. I didn't find out what it was. I said I found out how you did today. She had a no-hitter. It's awesome.
I had pegged him. He didn't even hit him. He didn't even notice it hit him. Yeah, then I go take a base. He was like, and after that, I was like, I had a full count on him, and then I threw it. I haven't played a JV in my life.
No, I just need to pay the.
Actually, I just started yesterday. Actually, I'm up to the position. Keep it there for me. Chase fell. He ran a 5.
David said he was on. He said he has a job like that right now. So he was waiting. No calls. I couldn't get off. There you go.
He jumped like 20.
What's up, man?
Hanging out.
Huh?
Hanging out.
Yeah.
Front row.
Seven o'clock. I'll call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Aransas Pass here at the City Hall, 600 West Cleveland Boulevard, Aransas Pass, Texas, April 7, 2014 at 7 p.m. But all will rise for the invocation. Appreciate it. Lord, I'd like to say a lot of thanks for this beautiful day. Also this room that we have filled with a bunch of people here, especially our youth. They mean a lot to this community. And also to the mentors that have been here to have been coaching and teaching and guiding them. Not only the coaches, but also their teachers. And throughout the years, they have worked with them to help guide them to the success they had this year. Also have to give a special thanks to all the adults. Hopefully everybody's doing well. The ones that aren't doing so well, have a special mind for them, a special prayer in your heart. Lord, watch over us and make sure we make the correct decisions as we do our youth's business. In your name, I say thank you, Lord. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for This will bring us to item number 3, the consent agenda. All of the following items of the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council, will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests. If the discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. We have items A, B, and C.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This will bring us to item number 4, where we would consider an act on the presentation of certificates for the 2013 to 2014 regional champion Aransas Pass Panther basketball team by myself and from the people up here, our council people, and the city of Aransas Pass. I would like to read out all the names and then have each one of y'all stand up as we get your certificates to y'all. I'm gonna start out with Mr. Byron Hayes. Well, you know what? We'll start right here. Brad, do me a favor. Ask me a question. I'll get you up. Just go. That way get everybody involved. That's it. We're gonna start off reading with the names. Okay. No, that's fine, that's fine. I'm gonna read the order that we have here on the sheet. We'll start out with Mr. Brian Hayes. We're gonna go with Mr. Matt McElroy, and we can have y'all start lining up, and then we'll start getting flags to y'all.
Baron, move down this way, Baron.
Appreciate it. It might take a little while to get through all the names and stuff, but just be there with us. Mr. J.D. Gentry. Mr. Kiki Hill. Colin Hill. Colin. We have Troy Galvan. Mr. Victor Gonzalez. Greg Gallegos. Brandy Cribb. St. Pierre. Mr. Paul Harris. He's working. I understand that. We have Ms. Bernadette Lopez, is she present? No. Okay. Jared Rodriguez. Natasha Lara. No, okay. Derek Yuri. Congratulations. Mr. Gary Smith. Being a
What's up, man?
pleasure always, brother. Congratulations. And Coach Glenn Hayes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Small token of our appreciation what you did for the city of Aransas Pass. As you get a little bit older, as time goes by, and you start having kids of your own, you start realizing what you did was a great feat. The other thing was excellent. Y'all worked as a team, y'all played hard, y'all left everything on the court. I get chills just thinking about y'all because it was such a wonderful time as an ex-student, the ex-fan to be watching y'all play. And it was one of the greatest gifts that you gave this community. It's history. Y'all made history, believe it or not. It may not have sunk in, maybe it hasn't. This is a great, great deal for Aransas Pass. And I thank you, our future leaders of Aransas Pass. Thank you for coming out. All right.
Con.
I think so. I think hopefully those drink bars. This will bring us to item number 5 for our agenda. Consider an act on approving the request from Mr. Roland Peña for the facility license agreement at the City of Rams Pass softball complex located by Rams Pass Aquatic Center. Before we go on, Mr. Peña, would you like to say anything?
No, I just introduced myself. My name is Roland Peña. I live in 1514 South McCampbell here in Rams Pass. I've lived here for the last 49 years. I also am a graduate from Rams Pass, and I continue to live here and try to help the town here with pursuing, continuing this complex for our people in this area to have something to do for the adults and also the kids in the summertime. Like I say, I also have the kids play out there in the summertime, and coaches have teams out there. And I'm here just to answer any questions y'all may have tonight. So feel free to ask. If not, you can look at the proposals and, maybe y'all can discuss them.
This is the, it's in front of you. It's our email exchange and also the last agreement. We went back and forth based on what council requested. What I sent you earlier was a $600 current rental agreement. That $600 is if PD continues the league. Otherwise, his rental rate was $400. So I made that correction. That's in front of you. The first proposal, the current contract would have been $400 plus the $200 additional for PD. That's what you see there in item number 1. We proposed, based on what you asked us to go back, the $400, the $200 if PD was additional, the lighting, which was, the light pole is on a separate ESID number, so we can isolate the electrical cost to that pole. We had actually also included the worker. If he didn't want the extra worker after we talked about, well, they were gonna have to pay for the additional maintenance, so he said no, he didn't want that after all. So, we took out the worker, we left the 400, the 200, and then the ESID number, I was incorrect. I thought it was an average of 18 days use. It's only an average of 8 days use from the field. So that was the $739.50. What we finally came to understanding is the $400 rent. The $200 would be additional if the PD Fire Department League were to work out. $51 for once a month city staff, and then $62, which is the ESID number based on 8 days of use in a month, 8 days of electrical usage for him. So that's a base fee of $513, and if the PD League makes, it would be $713.
And these are for the 2 games, 2 days out of the week just makeup?
Yeah, that's on account of last year we had a lot of rain, and Tuesday was a makeup for men's, and Thursday was a makeup for co-ed, because it was kind of hard to do. If it rained all week, to try to get them all, we get farther and farther behind, and the season would get longer. They were lasting almost 2 months, 2.5 months. And then the lease was coming up every month, and then whatever money I made kept going back. So that was the reason I was asking for them makeup days.
What about tournament play? You don't do any tournament play?
I've had 2 tournaments last year. The first tournament, I had to raise money for the city to buy dirt. All the entry fee money, the first tournament I had, was donated to the city. And the second one has a small little tournament, and that was also donated to another individual.
But you're not going to do any tournaments on this contract?
If the people ask for them, I have them. If they don't, I just have the league ball. I'm not into tournaments because it's I got a full-time job. I'm a captain on a tugboat, and I'm gone 14 days and 7 days off. I got 5 days at home, and I got 3 rent houses to take care of. I don't have much time. I'm doing this because I want to continue to offer to the people that have asked me to do it. I had a select softball team years ago, and a lot of that money I was using to donate to the kids to be able to travel, and it just kind of rolled on from there, and they want me to continue to do it, so I've been doing it. That's where I stand on it,
So if anyone else wanted to host a tournament for the weekend?
Oh, they're able to. It's all I have is the weekdays. Like this last weekend, there was a tournament held from some lady in Corpus had it. There's teams out there that actually play at league ball. They're actually select teams. They go traveling. They have tournaments to raise money to be able to pay their fees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so on those tournaments, is the city staff notified on that? Or
Yeah, they notify the office out the one over here on 1069 or 35. The lady there is the one that books them. I don't have anything to do with the tournaments on the weekend. If they book them, they're just booked over there.
Yours are just Monday, Wednesday?
Mine is only Monday and Wednesday, and then the makeup days.
I believe what you do, Ron, is a big deal, keeping the fields going. I heard there's some people interested in doing what you're doing, but I haven't seen the money, the fair fact.
It's very costly.
Yeah. well,
I got to pay $1,200, between $1,100 and $1,200 up front
Right.
to have insurance. A lot of people don't have money to just go up there because it's a gamble. Like right now, I had a co-ed last year, I had 16th co-ed, 8 men's. Now I don't have any co-ed right now that signed up, maybe 2. I had 9 men, now I got 3 that went to Ingleside, so I'm down to 5 men's team because of the delay.
Right.
They're paying 150 over there, and the lady over there don't even pay like lights, don't have to come up with insurance or anything. So it's more costly. I have to charge these people, and believe it or not, they can sit there and buy Cokes and do whatever, but the manager that takes over the team is having a hard time even collecting the money. So it's like if I credit them, I know it's my business, but sometimes I don't even get paid. And mostly, sometimes, like I told you, I think Vicky was asking, I make profits sometimes in the summertime, but right now at the spring, I'm behind. When I dish out $1,200 for that insurance and pay the guy to do the fields because I'm not there, I'm on the boat, pay the lady who does the concession stand, and believe it or not, we don't even hardly make that much concession stand because people bring everything, their drinks and stuff. The only thing I don't allow is ice chests up there. They can bring their Cokes or snacks. I don't even try to keep that away from there because it's not even fenced in. So they can bring what they want. It's open to the public. So if I don't have the teams, I don't make no money, or I can't even pay the lease. So as long as it pays for itself, I'll continue to do it. But as soon as it don't pay for itself, I'm closing the doors. I'm not going to pay for somebody else to play, and I got to pay out of my pocket. So it's been doing okay. Like I say, in the summertime, like I told you 2 years ago when we started this payment, I've been good on my payments. I haven't missed any payments. The people out there want to play, so they've been paying. But like I say, if they ever don't pay, well, we're going to shut it down. That's just plain and simple.
No, I appreciate everything you've been doing out there. I did notice that time I spent with you the other day, on the city's behalf, we do need to start taking care of those fences and upgrading, because there's a lot of holes and stuff that needs repaired to keep it up to the little leagues. I kind of feel like it's been neglected, not because of him, but maybe because of our part. I don't know, funding or whatever, but we do need to make it safe for everybody. And also the building itself, I have noticed the lighting. That's one of the things that caught my attention.
Yeah.
When you got stuff exposed like that, it's potential of something falling.
That's on our list of repairs. Mr. Pena gave us a list of
Okay.
repairs.
But I will say, I have noticed a difference since this lady's taken over. I've noticed a lot of changes, and some of the guys that work in the grounds are here lately. This last year, I noticed a big change. The grass is being changed. The trash was being thrown out of the restrooms. They've been cleaned. Previous year before last, we were having a problem with that issue about the restrooms getting, not cleaned, and I don't know what was going on, but I have been noticed a difference in this last year, and so yeah, things are improving out there. Just that I don't know what the issue is about the funding. I was told by Sylvia that we're going to have some money coming in. If y'all fix the park up, hey, who knows? There might be people come reading it on weekends more, and maybe I get more teams, and maybe it'll grow bigger. I don't know. It just it's a coin toss. Depends. Like I had this last 2 years, I've had the coaches bring the kids out there, and now I got some of the kids that used to play with the coaches. They have their own teams, and actually they're pretty good. I got his name is Mark Oliveras. He plays tournament ball. He's a very good ball player. He started out with the coaches out there. Now he's got his own team, and he's doing good. He travels, and I mean it's something for them to do besides going to the bars. And I have a lot of people from Kiewit that come and play out there. They have families in the valley. They come down here during the weekdays. They rather come down and play ball on the weeknights. And sometimes I have to change the schedule to according to their schedule because sometimes they get out at 7. So I start games sometimes at 7:30 to accommodate the guys out there at work. But that's, like I say, it's sometimes I have a good turnout. Sometimes I don't. It's just a matter of, right now I've got competition. I got Ingleside, like I was telling you. I lost 3 of my teams because it's $150, and I charge $225 to pay all my fees. And even like I say, the first season, I'm in the hole. You figured out $1,200. Time I pay y'all and pay the guy that does the maintenance field and pay the lady that does the concession stand, it's on paper right there. I'm in the hole like $800 or $900 until later on I started getting it back. So I'm kind of gambling to make sure everything goes well. So, you know, I don't know what to tell you. I just, you know, it's a gamble.
Is there any other questions, Bill? Brad? You all good? You all good?
Which is the best one for, the best one to use?
I think proposal two, the very last proposal, that's what we came to terms with, staff, and then the electrical use for his actual days. So it's gonna be a base fee of $513. If he can, use the PD and the fire, you know, if they approach him.
Yeah, if they
that's-
approach it.
then
I'm not for
that's-
sure.
That would be an additional $200, but we would need to stipulate the lease that that's only contingent upon, the PD and fire department.
Yeah, because I think they were playing, what, y'all played they played 2 months, Chief? Is that what y'all played last 2 months?
Yeah, I
Can-
believe so, we tried to get a game, charity game going or something.
Yeah, I was gonna help her with the umpires and stuff. The lady at the sandwich shop came and approached me and said if I had any umpires, which I had some umpires lined up for y'all, but, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was,
They're afraid of you guys?
yeah.
Yeah, good
Hey,
players there, huh?
I would be too.
Still got the summer. It ain't over.
All right, Mr. Peña, appreciate it.
Okay.
Unless you got anything else you want to add to it, we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.
So do I hear a motion for Mr. Peña for the proposed second agreement here by anybody?
I have a
Yes,
question
ma'am.
still. On the tournaments, is the city staff, or do they go to Paul, or do they go through you, Paul?
They go through the normal public works just to schedule the Parks and Rec department, and they provide their insurance, and so it's that particular instant in time. They're never ongoing. It might be for a weekend or whatever that is. They go through Norma Range.
Okay, so what is the fee? Do we charge a fee for the tournaments?
Yes, y'all do.
Yes, you,
What's the fee, Paul?
I think it's $50 per field. I may be off, I don't remember, but it used to be $50 per field. And they would charge maybe like $10 an hour for lights, something like that, just an estimate. That's an estimate.
That's an estimate, okay.
I'm not for sure, but that's pretty close, I think, to what it was.
Because I'm thinking if we're having, there should be a cost for, if we're charging Mr. Peña for his electrical, I think the same thing should be for the,
Pass along.
pass along to the other that are. Have we had any trouble with tournaments?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, the insurance requirement, as he stated, is always the tough one, but it's necessary to protect our insurance.
I got a question on that insurance. These people having tournaments on the weekends, why aren't they required to have insurance? You know, I mean,
You should.
how do we know what they're using the money for?
Yeah, and
Are
that's
they, is it actually a fundraiser, or are they actually making money? I mean,
That's-
it's not fair to me that I have to do this and I have to dish all this money out,
Sure, I understand.
you know? It's not fair to me, so I wonder if they're doing the same thing.
We'll find out. We will make it a requirement.
She will make, yeah, they'll look into it and make sure it's a requirement on that for them
All right,
also.
thank
Just to be fair across the board.
Like I said, this brings us to item number 5. Do I hear a motion for item number 5?
Well, I make a motion that we approve, proposal number 2.
With the contingent of between the PD.
Correct.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Think y'all can have that for tomorrow, for next meeting?
Yes.
Just as the,
Yvonne, will you put that as a follow-up for next meeting? Parks and Recreation Tournament play?
So we'll bring us to item number 6. Consider an act on awarding disaster recovery round 2 bulkhead project to RBE Engineering Company.
Mayor and Council, this is Disaster Recovery 2. That's that second portion of the bulkhead along where the city's transient docks are by Redfish Bay. Council removed Naismith Engineering a few council meetings ago. This is awarding to RVE. They have expertise in this area, and so staff's recommending that RVE be granted the contract. RVE is one of the 2 companies council chose to represent the city. We are on a very tight time frame. This project must be completed by the end of this year. We
Right.
lose we risk losing money.
Well, I make a motion that we give RVE the award the disaster recovery relief for round 2 bulkhead project.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm for it. This brings us to item number 7, which we consider an act on approving items for the Rents Pass Police Department. A is the purchase of ammo for police firearms training. B for the acceptance of a donation and purchase of a 4x4 Dodge Ram truck from Alan Samuels of Rents Pass. C will be for the purchase of 3 police patrol vehicles and associated equipment. And D will be for Mr. Chief, Mr. Eric Blanchard, entering into a 5-year agreement with Emergency Call Works Data Master, Department of Information Resources, Communications, Technology Services Division, Greater Harris County 911 District, and Verizon for the purchase and continuous use of Next Gen 911 SAAS for 911 operations. Eric?
They're all Eric's.
I'll start with A, on the purchase of ammo. We need to purchase more ammo from Precision Delta. They're a competitive source. They also, when we went out for bids, they had the lowest bid. We're starting some more, or we're expanding our firearms training. Right now, most agencies around the area, as do we do point and shoot at targets that are not moving, but case law shows that we should be doing static, dynamic, and interactive type training. Shoot, don't shoot, run and shoot, shooting at moving objects, stuff like that. Shoot during nighttime, shoot in vehicles, whatever. If you're gonna have a scenario present that way, we need to train for those potential scenarios. So we wanna do that with simunitions, which we have already, and with live fire. So we need to purchase more ammo, not exceeding, I believe it's $15,000 amount there. That would be purchased out of the federal drug seizure fund. On B, on the donation, Bill Denton has approached and offered to fund the police department. He knows that I get out a lot on the flats and everything, and he said, well, let me get you a 4x4 to get you out of that Ford. I think he just wants to get me out of that Ford. He approached and offered, aside from the dealer incentives for government vehicle pricing, which knocked off around $13,000 in sticker price, he offered to fork out another $16,000 out of pocket, leaving the remaining balance just over $16,000. If we could come up with that money, when we have the money available in drug seizure funds, in my opinion, it's like a no-brainer. He's giving me that much money towards it. We should jump on it. I could use a 4x4.
Yes.
On C, vehicles, this is another one Bill Denton came in strong on. He's just bound to take this away from Ford. We sent out for bids for 2 trucks we wanted for patrol, with 4x4s to help pull some of our vehicles out, so we're not gonna have to call a wrecker. We have been getting stuck on occasion responding to calls or on paper streets. So we wanted 2 trucks and 1 more SUV. The Ford, of course, won on the SUV. When we opened up the return bids, we only had 2 return. That was Ford and Denton through Alan Samuels. But Alan Samuels did have a better deal and a better package on the truck. So the recommendation of myself, the captain, and Yvonne, when we scored them, was that we go with the 2 trucks from Alan Samuels, and we do the SUV from the Ford dealership with your blessings. And again, those purchases on those vehicles will be out of the Fed drug seizure fund as well.
And a grant.
And a grant, and a crime board grant. So we had all the combination. And on D, this was a big item that we got kind of sidelined with. Verizon, the system we use now, when you dial 911, where that call comes into our system is established through Verizon. Verizon is using antiquated equipment that's out of service. If our system were to go down now, like one of the computers or servers, we would have to poll around Texas to see if there is a server piece or component available for us to use as a replacement, because it's at end of life. They will not service that system anymore, and we have to come up with a solution to replace it. Verizon approached us, like I said, first because they wanted to offer us that SaaS. What SaaS stands for is Software as a Service. They wanted to offer us their Software as a Service feature for 911 as a replacement, but that changed. What I was told is that we're not paying enough, we're not a deep enough pocket for them. So they came back and wanted to offer us virtually what we have today, just newer hardware, newer equipment in our closets, at great expense, if you can see on the comparative. So because Portland, the city of Portland and us, we kind of partner, we piggyback off each other and we back each other's 911 systems up. Portland had already started looking on the outside. We joined that journey and looked on the outside, and the one that we found of the three we looked at Verizon solution, we looked at Intrado solution, and we looked at Emergency CallWorks solution, for supplying us with that 911 service. And Emergency CallWorks not only had the best price, but they also had the best solution. And basically that's gonna be taking the equipment out of our closet. The equipment would be a hosted solution. And it's hosted just outside of San Antonio is where they have it hosted. Now, another component of it would be also hosted outside of Houston. And we would be connecting with them through an independent, exclusive network that is just point A to point B. It's not exposed to the internet or any other networks. It's a direct network. The nice thing about this feature that Emergency CallWorks offers is that it's going to bring us into the next generation of 911. And the best way I can explain that to you is people hear about text to 911. Right now, if we were to flip on the switch for text to 911, we would get 911 texts from Verizon customers only. Nobody else, if you were abducted, the only way you could get out by texting. Right now, if you text to 911, you will get a response saying text to 911 is not available. If you flip the switch, you will no longer know if your message went through or not. But I could guarantee you that it would go through if you were with Verizon. But that's it. With this solution, what will happen is when every cellular carriers and everything work out those problems, those glitches, and they all can offer text to 911, we already have it available. When the next feature component rolls out for next gen 911 like geocaching locations and stuff, we're ready, we have it. They call this an evergreen solution, meaning that we don't have to update anything here, we never have to change anything or buy the next package. Within this 5-year period, anything new, the latest, greatest, we automatically get it. We're forever green with it, we stay on top. As of this morning, Portland has already continued on with the process with Emergency CallWorks, and they're basically just getting ready to start working on deployment over there. And what we will do is coordinate together with them on deploying this new service. We went to the Crime Board. Crime Board has the funds available to fund this project, and they have awarded us with that grant, giving you all have your blessing on it. And I'm available for any questions that you may have about anything.
Ms. Jones, any questions? Dr. Bones?
Nope, it's pretty thorough.
So the breakdown that we have on the back here, is that what the cost is going to be on annually?
You're on the agenda memorandum?
Yes.
Yes, what I did is I did the first year for y'all,
Okay.
and then as you continue on, you'll see what it's gonna cost each additional year, and how those payments are. One payment is once a year, the others are monthly installments. So it would be broken down by month. So today, if we approve the project, we gotta pay the upfront cost, which is $13,084.10. And then we have the reoccurring cost of $2,810. And the total annual with those combined is $885.20. And then thereon, each year would be $36,385.20. And that is the Crime Board expense that they have approved.
Okay, I'm just wondering, maybe being the advocate here, devil's advocate, because I know that it's up for election, right, for us to continue the crime board, funding. What happens if what backup do we have in case the voters do not approve that?
Well, I would have to pull that somewhere on the budget.
Okay,
The thing that happens with this solution is if we don't go with them, I have to go with one of the other ones.
Right, right.
When we completely lose
right, and
911.
that's what I was just wondering, just,
Yeah, I don't have a backup funding source. I would probably try to pull from the Fed drug fund as much as I could.
okay.
But if that didn't work, I would have to find another way to budget that.
Mhm.
But,
Okay.
like I said, that we're going from right now, Verizon, I think we're paying maybe around $1,000 a month.
Okay.
And that's a fee, I never even knew we were paying for that. That was something that I was told was held off the side, I never touched it.
Mhm.
Well, I did find that when we audited our records. And, so $1,000 a month, that's easy to budget, we can do that. But at this point in time, we have nothing else to go to. We either Verizon will roll us into their new solution, we'll have to sign an agreement with them, or, have to go to like Entrado or.
Well, I was just pointing that out because, trying to have something in backup in case it's not approved by the voters, that's just,
Well, I really hope that they do approve.
I'm just.
I know, but that will be something that we're gonna have to deal with. Now, we'll have to deal with.
From
I
that
would say
contract,
s-
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say maybe start working with Sylvia on a plan just in case now.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, I hope that it's
I'll tell
approved.
you, with the way that we budgeted last time, if we were to lose the crime board at this point in time, we would probably have to cancel upwards around 14 employees because of the contribution from the crime board. So that the impact of losing that crime board would be very, very severe.
That's it.
Okay. So do I hear a motion on item number 7? Can we do them all as one, Adam? I mean,
Yeah, I suggest you just have one motion to approve items A through D and item 7 as set forth, and then that's recommended by the chief.
thanks.
Well, I make a motion that we approve, items, A through D as recommended by the chief and, make a motion that we approve that.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchard. This will bring us to item number 8, consider an act approving the items for the Rents Pass Public Works Department, which will be A, payment approval of March 2014 fuel purchase for Susa Petroleum, not to exceed $17,852.81. Item B will be payment approval for April 2014 fuel purchase from Susa Petroleum, not to exceed $12,860. And then item C would be purchase of the asphalt zipper not to exceed $125,000.
Mayor and Council, A and B, the city, we really need to go out for RFP for fuel services. This, you continue to see it because they are in excess of what I'm authorized to, expend. There's only one other provider I've been told that would provide fuel, but the quality of the fuel, it will require more maintenance on our equipment, so anyway, we're trying to work that out to bring that to you, so hopefully you won't see another A and B type item. Item C is the asphalt zipper that you guys saw the last time. It will not have any budgetary impact in this fiscal year. It's about a $26,000 a year annual payment for 5 years. We will budget for it in the next fiscal year, but you need to be aware that it is gonna be a recurring cost over 5 years. And it is a 3.06%. And Mr. Asphalt Zipper is here.
Mr. Asphalt Zipper.
Any questions? He even left a little
Oh.
CDs.
Any questions from the council?
Well, I make a motion that we pay Susa Petroleum for the March and April fuel purchases, and also to purchase the asphalt zipper not to exceed $125,000.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Portland just bought 2.
We'll be there. You just wait.
We will. We have some other stuff I want you to buy before we buy a second zipper.
Figured there was something there.
We gotta take care of our stuff.
That's right.
This is gonna bring us to item number 9, consider an act on approving item, the Rents Pass Building Department. We're only gonna go over item A, because item B and C will require an open meeting, which was not put on this agenda, will be put on the next. So item A is to correct the minutes from the April 1st, 2013 City Council meeting. Agenda item number 10, Councilmember Mills made the motion to approve the request of Mr. Kyle Ashton for a conditional use permit to rezone from AG Agricultural District to the GB General Business by striking out the words conditional use permit. Any questions on this one here?
I remember.
Okay, so do I hear a motion? Item number 8.
I make a motion that we correct the minutes on the April 1st, 2013 council meeting to use the word, to strike out conditional use, to rezone from agricultural to general business.
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
This will bring us to item number 10, consider an act on approving items for the Rents Pass Finance Department. A, the invoices from the Railroad Management Company for pipe crossing contract.
Mayor and Council, this is before you. The city has, services within an easement. It came across Donna's desk. The contract says $1, and so the bill was $900, so she obviously questioned it. The railroad company really can do whatever they want and did whatever they want, so our easement cost is $900. So we need approval of council to pay the increase from $1 to $900.
They increased from $1 to $900.
Yes. And it will continue to increase.
So that's a whole new meaning to railroad.
Yes, so we one of the things we need to look at is realigning those lines,
Okay.
And we're working on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
along with the
Is
last.
that a water line or sewer line?
It's both water and sewer.
Both?
Now, we could terminate the agreement and not agree to pay the $900. That's probably not feasible right now,
And we'll just dig them
Until-
up or something?
until we reroute them, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Donna tried her best, she's an attorney, she tried her best to, but it is a budgeted amount, so, or it is incorporated in the current operating budget, we won't go over on that one.
Wow.
I make a motion to, I don't even know,
To approve the invoice?
to approve the invoice for the Railroad Management Company for pipe crossing contract.
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
This will bring us to item number 11, discussion of the development codes and the revision to plat and ordinance and zoning codes, planning commission date of April 14, 2014.
Mayor and council, the charter, local government code, and our own municipal code require amendments to the plating and the zoning ordinance to go before planning commission before they are, before they come to city council. We have a number of items I sent you in your packet, and I don't know if you'd want me to read them out, or do you wanna go by one? How do you wanna address the particular issues that we're talking about? Because it really is 4 giant issues that we need to address.
Can you just give us, I would say,
Sure.
just a.
I'll just give you
a overview on each, a brief overview?
Well, first I'll tell you, I told you I've worked in development for more than 10 years, and I've worked in various cities across the country, and I've told you time and time and again that the code that we have in place, that's been in place, if we would only follow it, is good enough for the city of Aransas Pass. In fact, it is even better than the state's model subdivision rules. However, we haven't been following it. Not only haven't we been following it in violation of our own charter and codes, but in violation of state and federal law in many cases. So, that's why I tell you, there's a few minor tweaks that are necessary. And I visited with Councilmember Gomez, and we'll talk about some of that. First of all, the building permits. Council recently approved the 2012 building permits, the building codes. And I will tell you that our prior codes were very antiquated, and we dropped below the ISO rating of acceptable. Okay, insurance rates across the area in our city went up 5 to 15%. Our rating in the fire department also dropped, which raised insurance rates 5 to 15%. Our job as a city is to mitigate that risk. So our job is to get back in the good graces with the ISO rating. Our residents are going to be faced with a windstorm surcharge on your automobile policy, and your windstorm insurance is going to go up. If we as a city can drive down some of the other insurance rates we have control over, that only helps our residents. The financial impact to our residents when we don't have current and updated codes is astronomical. We could put it in the millions of dollars for our residents. Obviously, we're working on an annexation plan. Anytime a development wants to tie on to city water or sewer, they should meet our minimum codes. And you passed codes that said that, because we don't want to annex things that are non-conforming or that we have to grandfather. We want to annex things, and hopefully we'll be annexing things that are to current code as new development comes in. 2725 is a perfect example of what happens when we don't force folks to do that. 2725 is a myriad of very, very, very bad septic systems. I mean, I could show you blue drums of septic systems that are being used for just a variety of crazy things. But the city extended water, and once you extend water and electrical, it is very hard to get the horse back in the gate. So when somebody comes to the city and approaches us to tie on to any of our systems, they must comply with our current codes. That's first and foremost. The other thing is a certificate of occupancy, right? How do we keep buildings safe, and how do we let people know the building is safe to occupy and visit? When we adopted our current codes, we said if there's a change of use, you must come in for a certificate of occupancy. Sometimes the use is similar to similar, and it would just require Michael and the fire chief to do a walkthrough. That's about as simple as it's gonna get. If there's a change of use, obviously we need to calculate the occupancy rate. Is there enough exits? All of that other good stuff. We keep missing that. We keep passing by new businesses or things that are being remodeled without a permit, and it's very difficult to try to get in front of that. The water and sewer line extensions is probably one of the biggest issues next to the streets. We have our code that's been in place for a long time, says you must not extend a 2-inch line to more than 3 lots. Okay, that's contrary to state law. It's been contrary since the late 90s. So we need to make some amendments. Our staff has been extending 2-inch lines to more than 10 lots at a time. Very, very difficult to maintain adequate water pressure and maintain good circulation that we need to maintain for TCEQ and the rest of the people that regulate what we do. Very difficult. Not to mention, a hydrant feeds off a 6-inch line. If you've ever turned on a hydrant and had to flush it, chunky stuff comes out. Chunky stuff. So imagine the size of the chunky stuff when the line is smaller and it's under pressure. Very difficult, and that again affects our rating, our fire department rating, when we're not up to code with our hydrants, our water line testing, all of that other good stuff. And the same thing for our sewer lines. We've been allowing folks to put in septic systems because we don't have a line readily available. Our code, again, that's been in place for a long time, says they must tie on if they're reasonably within a distance. Council needs to define what that reasonable distance is. Other municipalities say a mile. For Aransas Pass, it may be half a mile, but the fact of the matter is, if we have sewer available, developers put in those systems. Cities don't. That is the cost to develop a piece of property. The same thing for a road. Again, our 59 codes say you must have access to an improved surface. Okay, whether that's a compacted caliche base, whatever that is. The fire code says a fully loaded fire apparatus must be able to reach you. It doesn't say what that road must be made of, but it says we must be able to reach you. We lost a good chunk of our equipment with the 8th fire, the fire that happened on the north side of town when I first got here. Fully loaded apparatus is very, very heavy, and it's going to get lost in the soft sand. So why we continue to perpetrate development off of soft sand, off of unimproved surfaces, is beyond me. It costs the residents of this city well more than what we receive in tax revenue in the first few years. It takes us a very long time to recoup. And if you think $150,000 house at our 63 cent, tax rate, 68-cent tax rate, How long is it gonna take us to recoup the cost of that street? That street, again, it is the cost of development. Our code is a little bit more stringent than the rest of the world in that the rest of the world allows half-street construction. In other words, you only have to build one half of the street that fronts to get to your property. Our code says you must build a whole street. But it also makes way for pro rata. If you build it and other people have access to it, they get to pay you back. There's also a mechanism for a trust fund here. If you extend water and sewer and somebody else has to tie into it and we don't reach you in time, we pay you plus interest. It's 8% in here, we're doing better than the banks are doing. So we need to change that. We need to absolutely change that, because if we don't reach them, they should have a mechanism for money to come back. Our landscaping codes, I've been beat up 10 ways to Sunday for the county building that's going in, that's an allowed use. I know we're trying to improve Wheeler and improve the look of our entrances. I don't have a landscaping code from which to hold people accountable to screen incompatible uses or to screen those ugly, ugly buildings or to attenuate the lights. Is it gonna be more expensive? Yes, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive because you're gonna have to put in landscaping and irrigation to keep those plants alive. But at the end of the day, you end up with a better looking Aransas Pass. Pro rata share. I talked a little bit about that. When you extend water, sewer, street, you should be eligible to retain some of it back if somebody else gets to tie onto it. If you put in the money and somebody else ties onto it, you get a portion of that back. We have mechanisms, again, in the code, we've just never done it here. We've never done it here. And the last item is the use tables. We are working with Planning Commission to recommend to you changes within the use tables. We have industrial uses that are allowed in the general business district that shouldn't be. They should be isolated off in an industrial district, off our more visible corridors. We shouldn't be having recycling centers and things that are not properly screened off of our main corridors. It's one thing to screen it, but the noise and the lighting right up against a residential property really is just not fair to that resident who's been there, and we allow a business to come in and devalue their property.
Or the restaurant that sits right next to it can't be sold or rented out.
Yep, yep. So all of these things, they are difficult for folks to understand and grasp. One, because we've never, ever, ever held people to the standard. We haven't. When I got here, I mean, Paul and Candy, one of the first things we talked about was model subdivision rules. Those are not new. They're not new at all. Model subdivision rules are tied to money. Counties receive money, Water Development Board money. When we don't follow model subdivision rules, we put the entire county at risk of losing funding. That is the reality. And I'll tell you, Water Development Board is funding the Mary Roads pipeline. That's how much money is at stake. It's hard. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow for our development community. I know Joan's in the audience. She's going to tell you how hard it is for folks to develop off of property, but that is the cost of development. If we allow things to go into large tracts of land, our citizenry as a whole ends up paying that burden. Is that fair?
So I have a question. I know a lot of this lines, water lines and stuff we run before you've been here, before I came up here, and anybody else. What if, which I think James probably knows, the street behind my house has a 2-inch, two houses run out to 2 inch. You know, how's that something that the city should guide, or how do we correct?
Well, the code says you shouldn't have more than 3 lots on a 2-inch line, and that's one of the first things we're going to amend. Because state law says you shouldn't even extend it to, a 2-inch is an irrigation
No,
line.
I
It is
understand that.
not to be serving a house at all.
But correct.
At all. It has to be corrected, and that's part
Right.
of our capital improvements. So when we talk about extending to development out in the peripheries, and we're not even taking care of what's within our city limits,
Correct.
it becomes very difficult for me to share that burden. It becomes very difficult for me to explain to you why I can't touch that 2-inch line. He's on an improved street, fire can get to him, but when fire doesn't have a hydrant to tap onto. But yet we'll allow well, or we'll want to allow well and septic on an undeveloped parcel because of the ad valorem that we'll receive. It doesn't make any development sense.
Sometimes just putting something on the tax roll, if we're not careful, it doesn't.
That's right.
Ends up costing us at the end.
That's right, absolutely. I had two citizens over the last 2 weeks. One of them was at the end of Rife. He is right at the very tip of the road, okay? Compacted caliche base. We asked the engineering firms to take a look at that road. The fire code says it doesn't have to be made of a specific material. A fully loaded truck has to be able to reach it. Our code says it's supposed to be a 2 seal and all this other stuff. Could we force the issue? Yes, but he started his permitting way when Frank was here. Okay, he'd already paid for his taps, he'd already done all of that good stuff. Is it the right thing to do to stop it? No, but the conversation in the letter that I gave him says, you know what? We're gonna let you because you meet at least a minimum standard. However, you're gonna be assessed for that street. It is only fair that you pay your fair share to access the property for which you will be receiving the benefits.
I know that when you said we were gonna go through some rough times, but
This is one of those rough times. There are some very, very difficult decisions that are gonna come up. There's a lot of speculation happening because there is a tremendous amount of growth happening in our area. And you can ask anybody in this 3-county area how I know development and how I work with developers, and none of them will tell you that I ever put an obstacle in the way. But when you have a sand road in front of your house and we have the potential to lose a piece of apparatus or not be able to reach you, and you want to put well and septic on it, it is not the appropriate type of growth you want to see in the city limits of any city.
Do I have anybody in the audience who would like to add anything to this? Come on up, state your name and your piece.
I'm Joan Dixon. Thank you, Sylvia. I've been a real estate broker here since 05, 06. Love the growth. Sylvia, I look forward to being a team player with you, but we've got to come to a gray. I so understand. I've told you that. I got 5 phone calls in one day, 3 of which I'd recently sold 5-acre tracts. And I know Sylvia's getting on this, but I've had a line of communication with the building department all these years, and they went to the building department. They were told what size building. We checked out city water. I do it at listing stage. I do it at contract stage, and I send the buyer there. And they were told wrong information. So now I have 3 5-acre tracts that are sold that, to follow these guidelines, which I so understand, they have to pay for a city street. They have to bring city water, city sewer to Myrtle off Avenue A and West Young off of McCampbell. I don't know, I was told $27 a foot for each line. Where they paid out of their 401k to buy the land. They are going to mortgage the property to get a $250,000 house built. Tax base. But they're going to spend it all on the city streets. They're going to spend it all, or they're not going to build. And who needs a fire truck to make a U-turn with more vacant property? There's got to be some kind of, to let our Aransas Pass keep growing and Sylvia do her job. We've got to have lines of communication between us realtors, because I spoke with another one, and she has the same problem on my listing. No building permit unless you put in a city street. So you want to get $60 a year taxes on a 5-acre, or you want to get taxes on a $250,000 house? All 3 of these buyers have their mortgages approved. So I'm sorry that the problem happened. I don't want to see the growth stop while we correct these problems. So I'd really appreciate my word of a gray. I'd love to be a team player, and I'd like to have the lines of the communication between the building department, follow her goals that are reasonable for our city right now. We can grow with her knowledge, but we've got to keep it going. We can't cut off growth. I've spent since coming here saying, don't go to Ingleside, don't go to Rockport. How am I going to explain to them that they have to put a city street in? You've got lots all over town. And I'm thinking, well and septic, at least they get a tax base. And then you come along, and I'm not educated, I'd like to learn and do a bond or whatever Rockport did, or my dad was a developer. Do something besides stop our growth, because you will stop it. Aransas Pass, have you been on Myrtle or Guile since I talked to you before? Since. So do you understand? And that's another thing. And I've been reading on the state, and I don't know if I got a hold of the right one, because I tried to get from y'all, it might oversee it. Developer. These are not developers. They've cashed in their 401k. According to what I found, financing capital improvements required by new development in municipalities, counties, and certain other governments. It's on 39501. I'll be glad to share it with you. New development means the subdivision of land, the construction, reconstruction, redevelopment, conversion, structural alteration, relocation, or enlargement of any structure or any use or extension of the use of land, any of which increases the number of service units. Now, what's happened with me is I've got 3 and 2 investors pulling out because they're sitting with non-buildable land because they won't give them a building permit because they forgot to tell them they've got to put in city water, city street, and now I've added utilities. What do? Stop growing while we straighten it up, or make an in-between? I'd appreciate your help on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our code has a definition of subdivider and developer. Again, it's been around since '59. Any act toward the subdivision of land, or who does or participates in the doing of any act or building single-family homes, multifamily homes, commercial buildings, industrial buildings, in other words, anybody who's going to develop property. And she's right, the redevelopment of property is exactly what they're doing on these parcels.
And multi-use, multi-unit, not
Yep.
one single family unit house.
Our definition,
I'd
which
love
is
to
more
have a copy
stringent
of
than
it,
straight,
yeah, but
we've
as
given it to you, Joan, on a number of occasions. It is in
I went to
municipal
the
code.
senator and got state code. I didn't, I haven't done it.
All right, ma'am. Sir?
Hi, my name is Dustin Spears, and I recently just bought 5 acres. I'm in the same situation as this woman over here. I bought 5 acres on West Stoddard Avenue. Now, this 5-acre parcel has a hard-packed caliche road in front of it. It is approximately 30 feet wide by a quarter-mile long. I have pictures here to show y'all if y'all want to get a better idea of what I'm talking about.
I do.
Here at West Stoddard and West.
West Stoddard and 13th Street. If you can zoom in on it. On MapQuest, it's on there. Now, carrying forward, 3 days after I closed on this property, I called the city of Aransas Pass to get a proper address for the property. I've been running off a legal description all through the real estate transaction. Now, when I call down to get this address or something to where I can get bids accordingly for utility, power lines, whatnot, I was told, sir, you cannot build on this property. And of course, I ask them why, and they tell me, well, you have to pave a road, you have to install an 8-inch sewer main, and you have to install a 6-inch water main with fire hydrants on it. Now, I was quoted by the Public Works Department at $28 a foot for piping. We are talking an extensive amount of money. We're talking at a half mile, that is approximately $73,000. Now, who, as a single family homeowner about to get married, has $73,000, already spent $63,000, another $73,000 just for a sewer line? What I am doing is requesting that the city council grant me a waiver on this sewer line in order to put it up to grade specs on, according to y'all's ordinances, for a septic system. Now, also, in the front of my property, there are 2 residences that currently habitate the properties right directly in front of my property. Now, these 2 residences are running off of a 1-inch water line that the city has provided for them. Okay, that's 2 lots on a 1-inch, not sufficient. A 2-inch serving 3 lots would be. Now, I work in a process field, an industrial field. I deal with piping and liquid dynamics all the time. I know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to this. A 2-inch under good city water pressure will be sufficient enough to provide for 3 homes. Now, the street, okay, according to my neighbors, my direct neighbors, I have talked to all of them. They all say that the city comes out and maintains this road. Now, I've been told by the building department that this is a city right-of-way and not specifically a road. But there are houses once again, there are 2 homes on the road that have addresses. The postal service runs down there. The garbage truck runs down there. There is no reason why we shouldn't be able to come to an agreement about the road, because I've been told I have to pave it. And of course, I'm not very happy about it. Now, furthermore, with the NFPA standards, the city ordinances require a minimum construction standard has not been met for basic fire protection and safety of the residents that currently habitate the properties out there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're no longer talking about a developmental problem. This is a safety issue for the 2 residences that currently live there because of the negligence that the city has neglected to perform the past ordinances over the last 40 years or whatnot. The city states, we place ourselves at great liability risk if we cannot reach a home or business with our fire equipment due to the condition of the roads. And that's where I come from on my opinion of the road. And it being a safety issue no more. I am willing to work with the city with the water main. If we could come get a cost basis, I've been asking for an estimate on cost for the last 3 weeks. I have yet not received it. But if we can come to an agreement, of course, this all boils down to money. And if we can come to an agreement, then I'll be willing to work with you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
First, to address the road issue, Johnny's here. We did send LNV out. My meet halfway with Mr. Spears was if the road can bear the weight, if the compacted caliche base can bear the weight through a bore, and the testing says it can bear the weight, we're good with that road. Water line extension, however, is an entirely different issue. And he's right. Why exacerbate an issue that already exists? We haven't given him estimates because council's going to have to define what reasonably accessible is. Is it a mile? Is it half a mile? Is it a quarter mile? There's no definition in the current code. That's going to be one of the hard decisions you're going to have to make.
How far is he from the closest line? 900 feet. How far, Jess? 900 feet.
Is it, what line does he have going to? Just a 2 right now, or where it
It's a
stops?
1.
From the main.
So if we were to go back all the way to the hydrant, what are we talking?
And starter, goes right to the ditch,
right
between your house. And I think the bid would be like $275 with the contractor's in it. That's $31 a linear foot.
And sewers, where's the closest?
Yeah, going down to Palm Drive, 13th, and that's $36 for linear foot.
I don't know, how-
Plus manways.
Plus manholes, by day.
8 manholes?
Yeah.
I know when the Johnsons built that house, they did sewage.
No, we only did water there.
No, I mean, but they put their septic, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
they put aerobic, I guess it's aerobic.
Yeah, yeah, it's upstate.
Which,
And then I know my little brother on McClung, he just built the house last year, same thing. He got water, but put in the septic system.
we keep talking about wanting to build the water sewer fund, which is really the whole purpose for annexation toward 35, to capture those things. We spend a lot of time and effort in our CCN boundary for water and sewer because that is the economic engine that funds the city. When tax bases go down, people still have to pay their water and utility bills. And in reality, that keeps the general fund running. There is a contribution from the water sewer fund into the general fund.
And on that there, once it gets to that point where we can allow sewage accessible, then they can tie onto it, right?
Well, what
Or
forces them to tie onto it?
There is a development agreement that we could enter into that says, you know, we're going to allow you septic, you must pay your tap fees and a portion of your installation. Again, our code calls for a letter of credit that says, I'm gonna give you X amount of money in escrow, it's gonna earn interest. If you never reach me within a certain period of time, you get that plus back. The problem is there's, none of that wants to occur here. It's, we bought it, you owe me, give it to me. There are 8,200 people, there's people on Johnson and Beasley and roads who are on improved surfaces who don't have septic. And if we're extending septic to line, and we're extending and doing the cost for lots like this, I can't in good conscience face those people. We're about to do a bond sale to extend, to open, just to have capacity. It is one of the difficult decisions, and I would please ask you to do pencil to paper on the ad valorem of a $250,000 house or $175,000 house or whatever that amount of money is, how long it's going to take the city to recoup that.
That if something would happen from a fire, that a truck would go out there and break down.
Gregory lost a truck recently.
Yeah, I know, but that wasn't because they couldn't get it. That was just pure, not being smart about it. You already know how to do it.
I'd like to say something. My name's John Zoss. I've lived here for approximately 20 years. It seems to me that it's not the fault of people that are buying the property, but it's the fault of the people who sat here before making decisions, not fully knowing what actually was going on, not knowing what the codes are. And now people here are having to pay for it. I understand that they're a problem, but by the same token, we still need to correct those problems that we have. And like Sylvia is saying, if we start breaking the crack or letting this in, like she was saying, coming to some kind of an agreement. So at this point in time, which nothing is said as yet, we can make those corrections. But something needs to be done. And like I said, it's not y'all's fault, but you'll have the brunt of the situation. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I can't rightly speak to exactly what's going on in this municipality, because when I moved into the area 6 months or so ago, I bought a place that already had all of this taken care of. However, when I bought unimproved land in Wilson County, it was within the city limits of the small town of Stockdale, and I did run into a lot of these issues, okay? The compromise that I was able to make with the local municipality is that the road was going to remain the way that it was. Had a compact caliche road, fine, and that they didn't have sewer out there yet, so the septic was the only way to go. But we split the cost of the water, and I was okay with that. And I don't see why there's no reason that this municipality, knowing that this municipality has screwed up in the past, by maybe nobody's fault here, but it's happened, right? So why can't we find some sort of common ground to say, okay, I'll meet you halfway, I'll pay for the sewer to get to X point, and because there's, like he said, my house is out there, there's two others right there, we're all on septic, but the city water supply is not what it should be. So knowing that the city water supply is not what it should be, and Sylvia, you admitted it's not. Let's get what is there up to snuff, because it should have been already, and then have people that move in come and tie off of that. Does that not make sense?
I'm happy to answer if you guys don't want to.
Well, we have a bond out. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to correct these problems.
Okay, so what would be the best fix for that, for his solution?
Well, cities participate when there is, for example, if the minimum code is to extend a 6-inch for hydrant protection, but we know we want to tie in a loop because we got to meet a TCEQ regulation or whatever, and we need an 8-inch line. Yes, there's the option to participate in the difference. But again, what is the overall benefit to those lots? If we're talking about extending a water line that's going to serve a multitude and open up an entire area like we're talking about at Highlands, where there's a cost benefit, absolutely, because the entire citizenry is going to benefit once that tax base opens up. This is serving 3 lots.
What about the property between the Clement that started? That's all for sale too, right?
Yeah, it still doesn't get fixed. How do you fix it? It's already there. Just force them to do the house and not let them build, just keep it the way
Well,
it is?
I mean, you have 2 options. The city fronts the money and they pay it back.
Cause I'm a firm believer in assessment on the street. I got assessed twice in the city. I
We
paid
front it and they pay it back with interest, or you don't let them build. There really is no other option in the code. I mean, council can build it. You can direct me to use bond money to go and build that line. I'd venture to say you'd have a room full of other people, more than 3.
I don't think it's fair to scrap the whole town for a developer's cost. That's part of developing a piece of property through roads and water. And like you said, we'll have a room full of people ready to carve codes. Could do something like that.
I've had no less, I mean, Bill lives on Johnson. There's an improved road.
Yeah.
We haven't reached them with sewer, and sewer's even closer than what's available to them. And we haven't reached them in decades. They have paid ad valorem taxes on the streets in bad repair. Their septic systems are already due to upgrade because that's about the age of the home. And they're on minimum water protection. How do I look at those people on Johnson every day in the face?
Ones I see on Johnson, they raise hell with me every time I see them. I don't know where they're coming from.
It is a difficult proposition. Those are the options. The city fronts the money for the improvement and you assess the property owner
Yeah, if we
with
don't get the money
interest.
from them, we just put a lien on the property, and then we get it when we sell it.
They can't sell it without.
Just something I think for us to discuss in more detail.
It's going to be in front of planning commission. If he wants to, if any one of these property owners want to request a variance, the first step is to planning commission. Okay, they have to go to planning commission and request a hardship or request a variance. If planning commission recommends it, then it comes before council for you guys to recommend it.
It could be to allow them to use a septic tank or.
Yes.
Or whichever,
Yes.
whatever they decide.
Scott?
Would it not be prudent to have a meeting with the realtors in our town to say, look, you all need to be aware of this and let your buyers know that these are the standards and rules that have not been enforced, but now need to be enforced?
We are meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is setting up a realtors meeting.
Okay.
I showed like maybe 50 lots the first year over here. And I think in the north side has the potential with the harbor growth path and the bypass to be developed. And I'm confused. I thought, for the sake of the city, that if the line was brought down to, let's say, Myrtle or Johnson, those along the way that are benefit, can't you impact them?
Yes, that's pro rata share, Joan. That's
So
pro
you
rata.
have to
You told me
wait
your
till-
relative wrote the
but
law or
does the
something.
buyer have to pay the whole city expense and get it, be the banker and the construction?
I can't force the property owners to tie on until there is a necessary requirement because those are existing structures. However, when they do tie on, yes, that money goes to whoever was the
So-
person who extended the
It
line.
won't be a $250,000 house, it'll be a 40, because they're gonna spend $150 on the street and utilities. So there's your tax base for the next 30 years on your tax-free city and utilities. There's gotta be something in between. You gotta be able to get something in between. Stop growth.
Mr. Harris, you can, go ahead, Mr. Harris.
Except for developers.
I'm David Harris, and I've been sitting here listening to everything, and I work in construction. And one of the things that we find out in construction is if you don't fix something and just patch it, eventually the patch is going to wear off. You're going to be more and more fixing. And I'm listening, and it seemed like it got sort of a solution with the people that are here. They're complaining about what happened, and I understand that. And maybe we can work something, but somewhere you got to draw a line. You got to draw the line in the sand and stop and get things changed. work with them. I think working with these and trying to work something out with this group is fine, but after this, there's have to be something that we got to draw a line and say, that's it. From here on out, we have to do it this way. And I think meeting with the realtors, as the Chambers of Commerce is going to set up, is the best thing to do. You get the realtors involved, then nobody has an excuse. We have all excuses. Everybody has excuse. Everybody has a reason. But the fact of the matter is, what she stated as far as what the guidelines and what the code is, it's there. It's in black and white. You can't dispute that. It's there. But somehow or another, you need to work with the ones that are here. They're involved in this. It's not their fault. If we can get something settled with these group, but from this point on, cut it off, I think we'll start moving forward.
I've got something else to say. Had I known about all this, I would have never. I wouldn't even be standing here in this office, in this room tonight. I would have never bought the property. I would have skirted off and went elsewhere. I was under the impression that it was available, not $500,000 available. That it was available, and of course, deceptive trade practice. That's a whole nother ball game I got going on. Now, with the pro rata, how I've read it and read it and read it and read it, and I just really don't understand how it works. Do I pay for the entire line to be built, and then they pay me back elsewhere? Well,
you or the city, and that's going to be up to these folks to decide. If it's a $50,000 extension, and your part to that line is 10,000, and the city foots the other 40. Every time somebody taps on, we recoup that 40 plus.
How? They mail them a check? I don't understand. How does he recoup that?
Yes, there's an actual, we have to keep an accounting of who's tying on, and every time somebody pays a water tap or a sewer tap, he gets that until we get to the 40,000 that he paid over and above.
Is this changed? Does he have to fit the utilities in it, like the streets?
Absolutely, unless this
The buyer has
council,
to put the streets in.
unless this council agrees otherwise. Kyle, you're a developer. Please tell me if any of this would be possible in Rockport or Ingleside or Portland.
I can only speak to Rockport, and no, there are areas in Rockport where there's city water available, no city sewer. I know in the past they did allow you to install a septic system, an approved septic system with city water. If city sewer wasn't available or a reasonable fee, or wasn't
A reasonable
really cost
distance?
prohibitive. But I don't have any relevant recent experiences with it. It's been a few years. I don't know.
But
if the
streets
cost
and,
can-
streets and other improvements?
I don't have anything on a recent relevant experience to speak to.
the only thing I'm asking for is to be as equal as my neighbors. My neighbors are on septic and city water, and they currently use the Caliche Road, which there's nothing wrong with. I'm only asking to be equal with them.
Johnny, did the
I rest my
results
case.
come in?
Thank you, sir.
Debate?
We went out Friday with the city staff's assistance, and we took what we call samples at various sections along 13th and then along Stoddard. What we found was about 3 inches on average of crushed limestone base over the existing natural sand. That was late Friday afternoon. Turned that information over to the project engineer that's going to look at the section earlier today. We found that the guys provided the city. What we found was on average about 3 inches of base over the width of that base section varied from 13 to 30. That's what's out. There's a few small areas that have a little bit of asphalt on them, but what we saw asphalt was there in return.
How much was the base?
3 inches.
Average is about 3.
Our code says minimum compacted thickness of base shall be 8 inches for streets designated as alleyways, marginal access, minor for apartments, and minor for residents. Minimum compacted thickness for base shall be 12 inches for street types as major thoroughfares and commercial streets.
We sampled one location about mid-block between Greenwood and Stoddard on 13th. And then we took a section of Stoddard, we sampled about the third place. And then we checked in 3 places.
And again, that's staff's attempt to meet them halfway. If the lab results come back and say 3 inches of compacted caliche will bear the weight of that fire truck, good to go. Doesn't mitigate the water and sewer, though.
What is the gross vehicle weight of a fire truck fully loaded with water?
Ricky?
We have an idea?
About 40,000 pounds.
Okay, we got about a 50-ton garbage truck that runs up and down there fully loaded. So is that comparative?
I think it must be the size of a tugboat.
It's big.
I've never seen a 50-ton garbage truck. I'd like to see one of those.
I got the ruts in front of my house.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. When you don't do the minimum thickness and you don't do the minimum standard, that is exactly what happens. And then we're faced with maintenance and repair for things that didn't meet minimum standard to start with.
My opinion, but the reason I had those ruts too was the city tore into my street to get that house over there, so water before he bought it, and I've been having trouble ever since then. They replaced it.
You're right. Once the street is touched, once the street is compromised, it is never the same.
Yeah, that's an ongoing deal there. Okay, well, here's enough of this. Let's move on to.
Tell you what, there would be a lot of houses built here in Aransas Pass if they would, before they would have done fit on that.
I think we would have just had a bigger street assessment program.
So I'll bring us to item number 12. Got anything left, sir?
The nonprofit survey, we put out the Survey Monkey. We've had 6 nonprofits state that they would apply for city funding, and only 6 nonprofits. We've advertised it quite a bit, and only 6 people have applied. So we'll present council those findings on the 21st, and then reach out to the nonprofits to see if they want to make a presentation to council or anything like that. I'll skip LMV for just a second and we'll go to department updates. You have a budget report in front of you. You're gonna see a variance in March. It looks like the expenses were great. However, Donna says that she has a note in her email. If I can get it up. We billed at the end of February and did adjustments at the beginning of March, so all of the income is in February and the expenditures are all in March, so it looks a little off. We're still actually 168,000 under revenues to expenses, so staff's doing a good job in holding the line. We move on to, does council have any questions on the budget report? No. We move on to code enforcement. Michael? Aquatic Center, Police Department, Fire and Emergency.
Mayor, council, an update that for code enforcement since January 1st to the end of March. We've done a total code enforcement contacts of 274 individual contacts, and I've broken those down very quickly into derelict personal property into 55 contacts, high grass for 22, rubbish, illegal dumping, working without a permit, plumbing violations amounted to 4 or 5, zoning ordinance violations, code enforcement complaints, we've had 16, and Robert by himself has done 172 contacts of those 274. Some of the highlights that we were able to accomplish in last month was both code enforcement officers went to code enforcement training for 36-hour class in McAllen. And one of the biggest things that we really worked on in this time frame, and there's coming up some photographs, was the Shamrock RV Park that on 1061 North Houston. Basically, some of the photographs that you're seeing right now, we had AEP, they went to this site, this RV park, to do a service disconnect. Basically, there's 23 individual RV connections in this particular park. I've established, since I've been here, a very, very good relationship with AEP and the people that do the service work here. Instantly, when they were on site, I got a telephone call. I dispatched Robert to this site, and he began taking these photographs. And once I saw the photographs, and even in the conversation with AEP service personnel, I had them absolutely under no circumstances were they to reattach, even if the owner of the property paid for the past due notices, were they to turn the power back on. As you can see by some of these photographs, some of the things there were way past just code violations. That specific one was a meter enclosure where they'd used number 12 wires, jumpers between where the meter is supposed to be. We had Romex running through the trees, feeding things. Is absolutely one of the scariest places that I've been in a long time in my career of construction and such. That's one of them, where they're feeding Romex through the trees to a weatherhead. We absolutely, I put 22 people out of electrical service for an entire weekend, and of course, you know, this would happen on Valentine's Day. So I was a very popular person at that point. The thing with contact we established immediately with the owner of the property, and very cooperative. Already had an electrician in the office pulling a permit. And these photographs are what the electrical system there now looks like. Completely two new 400 amp services. Everything's underground. Everything's fed to all 22 of these RVs with a proper pedestal, and things are grounded. Things have been approved and inspected. Hopefully he's moving. He owns the one next door, and that's the next that he's pulled a permit for, and he's trying to finish up a few things on this. But that's just a snapshot of some of the stuff with code enforcement that we've really tried to focus on. We're trying to take these RV parks specifically one by one. As you can imagine, when you saw the first before pictures, the amount of work that's been allowed, and most of this is just the fact that there aren't management companies on site. People have just been allowed for years and years and years, because this didn't happen overnight. This has happened over a long period of time of no one really being on site, really managing what these guys are doing. And you know, that's been part of our focus since I've gotten here, is really look at some of this stuff that's not just an eyesore. This is stuff that's life-threatening. This is stuff that's a miracle that emergency services haven't been called to this RV park, and people, you know, were electrocuted on some of this stuff. Very, very bad. And again, these are some of the things that we're continuing to address throughout the city.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Aquatic Center?
Good evening. First, I just kind of wanted to give a quick update with what was going on with the extra transfer from the reserves, status on things of what we are doing. We have one of our ADA chairs that's it's ordered on the way. Installation should begin. I'm assuming by the end of next week. Pool furniture, which was some of the funds that were to be allotted. We had ordered about $3,100 in pool furniture. It's 32 regular chairs, 18 lounge chairs. Kind of left a little extra money once the summertime kind of picks up. See if we need a few extra chairs. See what's damaged, what's not. As far as the slides are concerned, we should be pretty close to getting it to recertified or re-inspected sometime soon. Tomorrow morning we have a company coming out to help us with the last little bit of specs that we were caught on during the initial inspection. The main issues on the inspection that we took care of last month before spring break, Marine Ways, one of the boat companies that helped us out patching up the slides, they actually ended up donating their services to the city to help us out with that. So just give them a thanks for that.
I want to brag on Jacob a little bit because we recently installed, Brendan McElwee recently installed QuickBooks over at the Aquatic Center. It's not the best software that should be used, but it's at least a start, and we can now capture demographic information. Who's coming? Where'd they come from?
Yeah.
How much did they pay? How old were they? So we can start marketing, and Jacob's been really great about training the folks that are out there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's nothing fancy, but I put in a few, figures to where we can at least kind of, March was kind of a slow month. There's a few nice days during spring break where people were able to come out, but it was relatively slow, so we don't really have the greatest sample size, but you can at least get an idea of what we're kind of capable of showing now once crowds are able to come out that way. You can start developing marketing plans and just seeing, what's going on there. So, I attached by city where people were coming from. And then there's a breakdown of demographics by age groups, and then just a breakdown of revenue where we're getting our our revenue from.
Jacob's master's class is also leading the study at the Aquatic Center and with our fire department. So the class will be in front of you in the first council meeting in May, giving you their findings. And that's the finding to begin the certification process for our fire department, and then stop the hemorrhaging at the Aquatic Center.
Jacob, what's your last name, sir?
Ostrom.
Ostrom, thank you.
Yes, sir. But,
Okay.
yeah.
Good job.
Next is, you want to go last? Okay, fire department.
Good evening, council. This month, Brock, we've made over the last 3 months, 115 calls so far. This month alone, or last month, we had 40 calls. And in January, we had 30, 32, the same as February. Most of our calls are in the city. We've had 6 structures, 3 in the county, or 5 in the counties and 1 in the city. So I broke them down, and sorry I had in my paper, we've been down on the harbor and some other things been going on. But inspections, we made approximately 15 inspections. I made 2 over in Port Aransas. They call us over there to do inspections because they don't have a city inspector or a fire inspector. And same with Rockport, they don't have a fire inspector either. So they usually call me whenever they need an inspection done over there or a foster home inspection. We do have another certified inspector now. I've been in the process of training him here in the city. So there'd be 2 of us be able to go out and do inspections.
What's his name, Ricky?
Jason Perdone. He's one of my firefighters. So, any questions? You can see the graph up there, what we've been doing.
This is also, again, Ricky has a program called Firehouse, and again, we're now moving forward, forcing them to keep statistics. Not forcing, but we talk about performance measures, and our citizens want to know what's the return on investment. If I pay that $1.50 fee on the utility bill, what am I getting for it? We're just baby stepping our way to be able to give you statistics on what we're actually doing with the money. How do we spend our day, other than learning to be a gourmet cook or welding or whatever it is people think we do?
Also, they've been working on the other brush truck. We've got it painted. The bed's painted. The bed is on the truck. And now they're in the process of bolting it all down, putting the lights and putting the front grill back on. So if anybody would like to see it sitting over there in the bay, and it looks nice.
Okay, thank you, Ricky. Bill, emergency management?
I got all the emergency plans from all the departments. I'm in the process of compiling it according to hour 96, hour 72, and so forth. Been in contact with HEB's emergency management coordinator to put together a plan for feeding our people, our employees, after a storm. They have it on a contract basis where if we get hit, we can get pallets of food from HEB. We don't have to pay for anything until we pick up the food, or we owe them after that. I'm trying to get a hold of, I've got a hold of Derrick Construction and J.J. Fox, another local construction company, about the sea gates and the railroad gates. Our Public Works will be doing the small gates in Pelican Cove. I think they're 48-inch pipes where we have a plate drop in front of them. What am I forgetting?
No, we had a mini planning session with it's A&M and UT. They have a joint effort for coastal emergency planning. Our big thing right now is getting what we're going to do at 96 hours, 72 hours, 48 hours, 24 hours, because our current plan says everybody leaves. We're not leaving this year. We're all staying. We're mostly essential personnel, and giving staff the opportunity for waivers if they can produce some kind of hardship. But our residents expect to be up and running. They expect water. They expect services. So we can't operate it from Selma. We've got to operate it from Aransas Pass or Sinton or nearby. So Bill's coordination of all of those efforts really is paramount.
Oh, I forgot to mention ham radios. We've got Tom.
Eric's very excited about ham radios. These two
Tom.
guys are the biggest nerds I've ever met when it comes to ham radios.
I resemble that remark.
Yes, you do.
Tom Hargrave, one of our residents, I don't know if y'all have met him or not, he volunteers his time. He has donated so much equipment to the city, more than that, his time and expertise. Was it last week we got our radios tested, our antennas tested? We're going to be doing a high frequency radio. Eric, I didn't find out till not too long ago that he's a ham radio operator just like I am. So we're getting redundant systems, because if our cell phone antennas go down and telephone systems are down, probably the only thing we're going to be able to talk on is ham radio, and all we need is a portable radio and a battery and an antenna, and we're good to go.
I just bought equipment, $1,600 worth of equipment that's gonna go into that Alan Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep donated truck. But anyways, and we'll even have the ability to send out text emails over ham radio using a Packtor.
And one of the important things about that is DPS says they're going to have ham radio. We're not sure about that. But Tom assures me if they don't, we can send emails to Austin, to the emergency management, or the state's office. So now I'm not as high up on the ladder as Eric and Tom are, but I'm getting there. So I can learn some stuff from him.
That goes to Eric's updates.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
On mine, I summarized a lot of the updates on the sheet for y'all, but I did attach the supporting documentation, which we may have. Total calls for service, and I did it from the beginning of the year through March, because I had prepared this report last month, but we had heavy agenda, so we've been pushing it off
Do we have it?
to this month.
It's on the screen.
Oh, okay, we don't have it there.
The summary is, from January to March, we had 5,487 calls. Of those calls, or events, sorry, of those events, we had 2209 were traffic related. We issued 937 citations for a total of 1,200 violations. So we could have up to, I think, 3 or 4 violations per ticket. We answered and documented 46 crash reports. We had 134 arrests. In addition to the 134 arrests, we detained, which is a juvenile arrest term, 16 juveniles. And as you heard from the earlier report, PD only was involved in 172 code enforcement events. That's all Robert Brake, none of the other staff. Some of the highlights were we had a robbery on the 8th of January, which was at the Sunrise Market. That suspect, we believe we know who it is. We don't have a capture on that at this point. We do have that information online as well, seeking more information. We had an aggravated assault at the Crow's Nest on the 3rd of February. The victim was Jerry Gill. He was beat very, very badly. We chased the suspects all the way in Louisiana, and while we're in Louisiana, he decided I'm going to turn myself in, came back, turned himself in, so we were able to make an arrest in that situation. Suspicious subject approached a team. You might recall back on D-Berry, this happened back on the 19th of February. We were not able to make anything else out. We had a very limited description. We get video from, I think, Walgreens, and it just simply wasn't good enough to make anything out. Child involved shooting with the father that was apparently cleaning his gun, shot the child. He has been criminally charged. We think that he was reckless in that situation, and it was recommended to take the trial for the court. Drug arrests. We've had several arrests been made for drugs. What I started doing, and the media kind of picked up on it, they logged it, is if we pop you, we're going to post you. We will let the public know if you get popped for dope. We're putting that online. Other major events as well, we will put on. We like to be transparent and communicate with the public. Not only that, but I tell you what, the public loves playing cop, and it helps us out immensely to get tips. So, the other thing we started was a drug take-back event. We started that on the 21st of February. You might have seen that Portland got a lot of press over it. We did it like 8 days before. We didn't get much of anything on it. But we're doing it. We're providing that to the community if they want to drop off prescription drugs not used. Another highlight was a trash take-back event. We just did that again this past weekend. It was hugely successful. We filled up about 6 trailer loads of trash and 2 truckloads. The Texas Open Carry folks assisted us. We're supportive of them when, you know, they act within reason. There's road groups out there that are unreasonable. You might have seen Sylvia holding her trophy up on the news in her bright pink shorts.
They were gray shorts, by the way.
We also did another thing for getting alerts out quicker to the public. Back on the 15th of February, we started Roost alerts. Roost basically will push an alert once I push it out directly to your smartphone, smart device, or smart browser if you use a Mac computer. We shot up on that. I think we had 84 or 85 users now that are using those push alerts. The last highlight of this period was the school lockdown. We shared information on threats on law enforcement with the school in case kids showed up at school. As that information made it all the way to the superintendent's office, it went from being a threat on law enforcement to I'm on my way to the school to take care of business. And the school reacted by putting the system on lockdown, and then we pushed out the alert and worked with the school to correct that matter. The subject was immediately arrested on an unrelated charge, so we were able to alleviate any concern. That's pretty much the highlights that I have for you.
Good job. I noticed on the news today, Corpus is having a high heroin problem.
Yes,
Are we
heroin's
just-
making a comeback.
Are we having any problems like that?
You know, we have been having a heroin problem. In fact, maybe about 8 months ago, we had a batch of heroin going out. And I was gonna put an alert out, kind of sarcastically. You might want to hold off on your heroin use right now. We had several people that were ending up in the emergency rooms, very critical. But yeah, heroin is making a comeback stronger than ever right now. Cocaine used to be the highlight of the coastal bend, but right now heroin is stepping up. Even in the hospitals, on blood tests, they're seeing it. It's sprucing up coming back.
We're amping up our employee drug system. LNV? Just FYI, executive session shouldn't take long.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Since our last update at the last city council meeting, we've been able to get the electronic appraisal district information from the San Pat County Appraisal District. The state statutes related to annexation proceedings require that the appraisal district information be the basis of notification as far as ownership of the properties and be the basis of the land use that we consider in looking at properties related to annexation. So we got that information. It's on the computers. The technicians are starting to prepare maps. I have a few samples. If you care to look at them after the meeting, if you still have that much energy, I'll have some sample maps here. Now, these maps do not indicate the limits of proposed annexation, because that will be actually one of the last things that we do after we look at all the properties, look at the different things that need to be looked at separately, such as the industrial districts. That needs to be looked at differently, and through our process we need to identify ag use and other exempt uses. So we really have to crunch through a lot of information, a lot of data, go through each and every appraisal district account number, which if you look closely at these maps, we've got the numbers printed on every parcel. So we're in the process of building the database off of this information. Since the appraisal districts, their tabular information is in one set and their map information is in another, so we're basically building the bridge between the two. But it's all going well so far. It's just excuse me, a pretty significant amount of data that we're working with, but we're confident that we'll get through it pretty quickly.
Add to that, everything's paper. Donnie came and picked up a box of industrial district agreements, and the only thing I could offer was a bigger box.
But we're digging through it, and it's going pretty well also. So a lot of different efforts in motion, but all taking place concurrently. And I would have to say that overall the project's looking very good. Any questions?
Philip wants to know ETA.
Yeah. Are we on schedule?
I would have to say yes. Despite a few false starts and a few complications we didn't plan on, I think overall we're still within the time frame that we've previously discussed.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Johnny.
I would like to thank everybody that gave their updates. They did a very good job. Keep it up, not only for our information, but also for information for our citizens. Appreciate everybody's work, Sylvia, and your guidance there. I can see it.
It's like pulling teeth sometimes, but you're gonna start seeing the directors every council meeting. You'll see a different set that they'll be responsible for their own data and presentation. Good.
Okay, this brings us to item number 13, favorite part, citizen comments. State your name, business, whatever you like. Mr. Brumman, in 3 minutes.
My name's Donald Brummett. I worked for the city for 18 years, and not only y'all, but the people before you had the same thing. Once or twice a year, we'd get a complaint that realtors selling property and that the city would bill them a road to their property. It wasn't y'all and it wasn't them. It's coming from the realtors.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I was up one. You want to go ahead?
I have to tell you that the city building inspector is the one that told the three buyers that they could not, that they didn't have to do a rough advertise. You're wrong, sir. Take your code backwards in the thing.
Let's try and watch this. What we got going on. Go ahead, Mr. Harris.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate everything that was done here today and tonight, and all the comments that were saying. I want to ask the chief, who was talking about the heroin comeback. Are there any plans as far as curtailing the drug problem here in Aransas with working with federal authorities, or are you already working with federal authorities to try to eliminate that? I think that's one of the big, especially on the north side where I live. I see it on a day-to-day basis. I'm not happy about it. I have stopped a couple of officers and told them a couple of things. I want to see more of that, because I think that in itself brings down the community. brings down Aransas Pass. People don't want to come where they're, you know, things not looking very well. But I appreciate all that y'all doing. I thank you for your officers are very approachable, and I appreciate that. In time past, they haven't been, but now they are, and I thank you for that. I thank the city for wanting to move forward. We have all these possibilities for Aransas Pass, and we have to get off of that old mentality and try to move forward into the new century. You have this new plant that's coming up outside in Gregory. People are going to be moving in. Why not move here? Why not get them here where they can do more, and we can do more, and we can be better? But we have to move forward. And so I see that the city is moving forward, and I see that y'all trying to do the best. And I just want to encourage you, tell you I'm backing you 100%. I told the mayor that when he first got elected, that anytime you needed me for anything, I'm here. I was born here. I was raised here. Mr. Lawrence used to be my lawyer and my family's lawyer. And Billy, I went to school with him. I don't even talk about that. But we are. Yeah. That would take the rest of the night, and everybody don't have that. But I do want to commend you on what I've seen and what I've been hearing. This is the first time I've been able to make a city council meeting, but it won't be my last. And I really do thank you for where we're going. And I just think if we keep our eyes on the prize, we'll reach where we're going to go.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor and Council, I forgot to mention the renderings for the improvements at McCampbell Park and Community Park are in front. Welcome to, peruse, make comments. Those are some of the quotes that are coming back for the particular equipment.
I'm Jim Covington, and I'd like to ask who prepared this road that we're talking about that is 3 inches deep on the surface?
Probably city staff.
Well, if the city did that and they did it improper, I'd say it's the city's responsibility to do it properly. Now, I wouldn't say that's the city's responsibility on any other road that hasn't been constructed. But since the city did this wrong, I think the city should do it right. So that's all I got to say.
Maybe that's the first road we use the asphalt zipper on.
That'd be a good idea. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else who would like to make a citizen's comment? No, everybody's pretty much settled in. So then that would be the end of the citizen comments. I have 8:54. We're going to recess the open meeting and return to the second session and pursuant to Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code on item A, 551071, consultation with the attorney, legal matters of Naismith Engineering, moving from all remaining city projects. Item B, Section 551.074, deliberations regarding personnel, municipal court, associate judge, Bernardo Flores. Thank you.
Sir,